Wonderful weather conditions for the second time that the cars go out for the Blancpain Endurance Series here at Silverstone. We had an hour and a half of free practice this morning and now an hour and a half of pre-qualifying. With 3 drivers per car, more than 50 cars out to play. It's going to be very, very busy out there. Wonderful spring weather here at Silverstone. It's been a really warm day, almost not a breath of wind, but certainly with this late spring, John Watson, a fine place to be, Britain, at this time of year when the weather works.
Well, 23.5 Celsius, ambient 33.3 track temperature, and it's that track temperature that's actually responsible for something I managed to glimpse when I was standing up in the VLUC suite, looking down over Brooklands Corner. There's a load of rubber going down, which is very good indeed, because that means that's going to give the teams, the cars, a little bit more grip. Once you get that racing line established, that's when lap times will come. Now, whether we're going to see lap times repeated that we saw this morning, and it was Davide Rigon this morning in the S&P Ferrari number 72, who towards the very end of that 1.5 hour session set the fastest lap time of a 1:58.781, which I think was a pretty impressive time, bearing in mind it's not a qualifying session, bearing in mind teams are in and out, driver changes, car changes, whatever. So whether we'll see that matched or exceeded, well, we'll know in the next 90 minutes. Well, there'll be 89 minutes and a few seconds.
Yeah, well, what, John, you were talking about, though, was rubber, you said, as the quick times started to come. It's warmer by about another 6 degrees of track temperature this afternoon. We'll have the shuffle of the drivers going around. We will have drivers now working out maybe you do need to hang back. But for the S&P Ferrari that got to the top of the pile, we've got so many manufacturers here. But one thing that was really clear, that wonderful lap from the Ferrari, but Mercedes looking very strong and out in great numbers here at Silverstone. They feel pretty much, I think there was 7 of the top 10.
Yeah, certainly the second and third place cars, number 4, Lucas Stolz, and then the number 87 of Nicolas Jamin were second, third quickest, and the times they were within just a 0.2 of a second. I mean, that was an exceptional lap from the 72 Ferrari. Normally, you're talking about hundreds, maybe thousands of seconds dividing the top 4 or 5 cars. But there we look.
But we're just going to point to the 72 Ferrari getting out of shot, but the Bentley's got up there. Not this one, because Stephen Kane put the number 7 car off into the gravel at Copse. That ended its session. But the sister car with number 8 on board, number 8 was in eventually 5th place, but it was bettered by the Bentley Continental from Team Parker Racing. Seb Morris using his knowledge of the circuit from the British GT Championship, he's reigning champion. But a great mix of cars. In fact, there were 6 Mercedes in the top 10, 2 Bentleys, the Ferrari at the front end, that makes 9, and the other car was down in 10th place, the Aston Martin. Indeed. Better of the 2 cars from SRO Motorsports, Vassivier, Dennis and team. So a good mix of cars, but certainly, where are the Audis? Audis, you know, for many years so strong, but the best place those in 12th place. Where's the Lamborghini?
To some degree, I mean, if you go back to Brands Hatch report now to go, the Mercedes teams would say that was very much an Audi racetrack. Maybe what we're seeing here is Silverstone, maybe a little bit more sort of the nature of the corners, the length of the lap, the openness and free spaces that Silverstone offer. Maybe is going to work for the larger, the mid-front engine cars, the Bentley being a case in point, BMW following, obviously Aston Martin, and so it's difficult to tell. What people were doing this morning was their own kind of preparation, homework. That's so important when you get track time, and of course with 3 drivers per car, in virtually all the entrants here this weekend, they need seat time. They've got to get accustomed to the feel of the car on the high-speed turns which comprise this 3.6 mile Silverstone circuit, or if you want to put it into European money, 5.89 kilometers and 18 corners. I mean, it is a high-speed roller coaster. Some of the greatest corners of any racetrack in the world are here at Silverstone. And some of the old names, Copse, for example, up through the Beckett's complex, down to Stowe. Club Corner's a change corner. The new Abbey, big challenge. And then you've got the final swoops through Brooklands, where you can carry a lot of speed in. So mix and match.
I said the question, where were the Audis? Well, one of them has banged itself right to the top of the chart, very early on, but under 2 minutes, so we know that's a good time. And that's Sheldon van der Linde, Belgian Audi Club, Team WRT, sharing with Marcel Fessler and Stuart Leonard. And I rather fancy his brother is about to stick in a really quick... Oh, in fact, he has. His brother has just gone top, so 2 van der Lindes at the top. The other brother is in 66, the Attempto Racing Audi. And that is, therefore, Kelvin van der Linde, the older, better-known van der Linde, but he's been kept on his toes by young Sheldon, who's really pushing to come through. 1 minute 58.823 seconds. That is a blink of an eye slower than the fastest time this morning. You sort of suspect that, but
it's a very strong time. Another car that's going very quickly right now, fastest of all through Sector 1, is the 99 BMW Felipe O'Connor. So that car will, we're just looking to see, well, in fact, it's still midway between first and second sectors, but it is the 66 and the Linden Audi on 158.823, followed by the 98 BMW 58.866. Suddenly BMW are picking up pace. We didn't quite see it, but again, it's just a function of the freshness of the tyres as the Bentley runs a little bit wide, and that's another area we have to be observant about. Certainly the race director is being observant, and race track limits. Alex Brundle in the 62, Aston Martin having his second outing in Blancpain GT Endurance. Good race from Alex in Monza. You've got Maxime Martin in that team, as well as Mervyn Kirchhofer.
But they were the ones that had a water leak this morning, lost a bit of time, so they're playing catch-up, but catch-up can be done. But look at Nick Yaloli in the BMW in second place. He set the fastest first sector time of anybody, and this is a driver who's only just come across to the BMW team. He's normally been racing in the German Porsche Series with great success. I think last year he was, came second in the championship, 6th year before. Knows the circuit, but hasn't raced in the UK for quite some while. So Nick Yaloli, very impressive on home ground.
Well, both the BMWs are second and fourth quickest, so whether they've found the sweet spot of the BMW M6 performance, whether they've just, again, I keep referring to the value. You can see here, coming into Cot, that dark matte colour line, that is the racing line. That is rubber that has been laid down over the day with a combination of Blancpain GT3 endurance cars, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. We've got other single-seater events here. But the more rubber goes down, the better this racetrack is going to become, and more drivers will be comfortable with the fact that that's the line they've got to stay on. If they stray off that line, they're going to find a different racetrack. Even putting one wheel, let alone two wheels offline, you will lose time.
So Conor De Filippi in that fourth place BMW, absolutely flying around the first point of the lap. Nick Yaloli improved his time. He's now still second, but just 0.043 of a second off. The Lamborghini's trying to hunt in pairs. So it's not the 63 car, it's the 82 from Pereira, and that presumably leaves the third of the GRT Grasser cars is the one that's tucked in behind.
We've not really seen the kind of performance this year from the Grasser Racing team that we saw last year. The dominance there, we see the speeds, look at the speeds. The midsection of that Maggots-Beckett's Chapel complex, it actually gets slower as you go through it. Then at this point, as Frank Pereira illustrates, there's a rally cross course at Silverstone. The World Championship Rallycross event is held here at Silverstone, but Frank, that is not the rally course track you're on.
He got the wrong weekend as well, honestly. The lack of attention to detail. Number 19 goes past the sister car, but that wasn't too difficult. Conor De Filippi did stitch that lap together. He's done a 1 minute 58.7 seconds for BMW. BMW first and third.
Lap of the weekend to date.
To date is the word, John. Got a few pit visitors at this point early in the session, but don't forget, for all these cars, 50 runners, almost all of them have 3 drivers, so they're going to have to cycle through. But it's also a lot warmer. Air temperature up a couple of degrees from when they were out this morning, but track temperature up by about 6. Conditions are different.
Just those Porsche fans who are out watching Dirk Werner in the 911 Porsche, it's now up into the top 10 and 10th place. 3/4 of a second down on the current fastest lap, and that's the 99 BMW of Conor De Filippi. So more work, but in these conditions where the track is really, really rubbering in, and the kind of traction that you get from a 911 with all the weight over the rear axle, that's got to be good news.
Absolutely it has. Leading the way in the Pro-Am class in 9th place overall is the 333 Ferrari, as we've often seen at the front from Rinaldi Racing, Alexander Matchell, Renat Salikov, but the quick driver on board that is Daniel Karlitz, doing an absolutely fantastic job, but he's now tumbling down the order as a lot of quick laps being banged in. And Maxi Goetz starting to pick up the pace in number 43. Stracka Racing Mercedes, they've got 3 cars here, sharing with David Fubinelli and a chap who's quite new, I believe, Maxi Pook.
Well, Max knows Mercedes inside, outside, upside, downside, whatever side it is. And he has always been, over the last, 3 seasons or so, with the exception of the year when HTP decided to go down the route of the Bentley Continental GTR. but Maxi knows Mercedes inside out. But there's a challenge. There's a lot of very strong, fast drivers behind the wheel of the Mercedes AMG GT3s this season. And in fact, looking down at the Mercedes-Benz, they're being split a bit now, because Dries van Voor in an Audi, number 1 Audi, has gone 8th quickest.
That car actually unusually had a couple of rotations this morning, and that was now from Pereira. We saw him going not in this Lamborghini, he's in the number 82 Lamborghini. But let's have a look at Mirko Bortolotti. He likes being fastest of everyone, but if he can't be fastest of everyone, he wants to be top Lamborghini runner. And at the moment he isn't. Early in the session, he's not even driving the car. It's Christian Engelhardt, but they work very much as a pair in the Sprint Championship, and come out to play in a three-driver lineup, of course, with Andrea Caldarelli. But riding on board, getting a feeling for the lap, John, going onto the hangar straight, no one ahead of him. So let's see what sort of line that is taken as he goes down under the bridge towards Stowe. Oh, in fact, sorry, that's the Wellington straight.
Down the Wellington straight into Brooklyn. So sort of having to fight the wheel a little bit just to get the car to turn in. The car turns in when he wants it to, but slightly uncertain as to the point he wanted to make that commitment. So, I mean, you're just balancing the car on the throttle and on the steering, and depending on the basic balance that you've dialed into the car, whether that will give you a slightly sharp turn in initially, or as I like a car, is that you turn the wheel and all the steering is in effect carried out by the rear of the car. In other words, you lean in the rear, that gives you the confidence to open the throttle, and therefore that's where the time comes. But certainly aggressive coming through the Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel. This is the part of the corner, this 3 sequence of corners where you've got to carry your speed, because here onto Hangar Straight, equal fastest part of the racetrack, so giving up time because of a poor exit, it's very difficult to make up on the length of the straight.
I was about to sound the fanfare for Christopher Haas going top, but it's not an Audi at the top, because he's just been deposed by nearly half a second by number 14. It's the Lexus, one of the 2 Lexuses from ML Fry Racing, and it's Christian Clean who's put in that super fastest in every single sector. Well, we've got a half-second advantage, you could. So there is Christian Engelhardt, just moved up to 8th place with that very aggressive lap, and again he's clouting the curbs. Both he and Mirko Bortolotti really use all the track and more, but Christian Clean, what a lap that must have been. To find even space to do that is quite something on such a crowded track. 50 cars, but there's the new mark, 1 minute 57.850 seconds. Wow.
So first time we've seen a Lexus this season on out and out pace, whatever, new tyres, old driver, new driver, whatever, to put the Lexus at the top. Okay, we're only some 14 and a bit minutes into this session. Nevertheless, we talked about the progress that Lexus and the Emil Fry team have been making with this car. It's very rapid progress, being confirmed by the pace right now of Christian Clean in number 14.
Yeah, the sister car with Norbert Siegler at the wheel, just under 2 seconds down, but still a respectable 18th position. But that was an extraordinary lap from Christian Clean. Riding on board, he's sharing that with Costa and Marco Seifried, but he's got it all to himself at the moment, of course. Working his way back down, the Austrian racer. I mean, Christian is always a very happy-go-lucky sort of individual, but now he's got in the car that potentially is at the very front end. He'll be bouncing up and down on the balls of his feet when he gets out of the car.
Christian Clean, for a number of years,
a great interview to have when he gets out.
But he's been looking for a happy place to be able to exploit his talent, and maybe he's found it in this Lexus. You know, you're backed up by Toyota. The Lexus is the luxury brand of the Toyota brand, and it's a big backup behind in Japan, and of course they're racing GT300s and GT500s versions, not quite the same as the GT version, and it is now a car that's racing in North America and other continents where GT3 racing is so popular.
Well, a lot of the top 20 in the pits, in fact all but about 5 or 6 of them, and one of them is the 911, which is in Dirk Werner's just sitting on board there. He didn't take it out. It was I think it was Romain Dumas who went out at the start of the session, down in 14th place. John spotted him when he was in about 10th. A bit of work on the settings on the rear end of the car. That car does look fantastic in that race livery, I must say. It really stands out, most particularly when it races in the dark or the gloomy weather conditions often seen at the Nürburgring in the circuit championship there, and certainly stands out. But what's his time? Yeah, 1.5 seconds or thereabouts down on the pace. But that the Lexus is so far clear at the moment, not repeated, and the number 14 car was brought into the pits by Christian Clean.
Well, Nicholas Polar in the 55 Audi coming through Club Corner, again very wide exit, did a good job in keeping the car within limits and not catching the attention of the race director, then into Abbey and managing to avoid that very nasty little dip that can catch you out, catch the unaware out very quickly indeed.
Have to keep looking at both screens. Suddenly from about 30th position, Rui Aguas has put his Black Falcon Mercedes, bang, up to 4th place. He's very close indeed to Rolfin Eichen, who's got the 82 Lamborghini, who's taken it over and moved up to 3rd place. But it's extraordinary, you can suddenly just get another driver on board and find 2 seconds. I
would call this series Diversity Blancpain Endurance. Lexus quickest, Audi, Lamborghini, Mercedes, BMW, and I think another Audi.
But again, what it shows, John, is the fact that Rui Aguas is in a Pro-Am entry. He's up against, in fact, the next Pro-Am. He's in 4th. The next Pro-Am entry is down in 14th position. But he's sharing with Kriton Lendudis and Saud Al Faisal. With the best wishes in the world, they are not equal to his pace. But it goes to show, if you want one pro in the car, get a really quick one. And Rui Aguas has been banging in quick times for seemingly decades now.
Yes, we've got other categories. We've got this weekend, we've got Silver Cup, which is led by Jules Simkowiak, Nico Bastian and Jack Manchester. And then the Pro-Am Cup this morning was Nicolas Jamin in the 87, Jean-Luc Bublik and Ricci Mercedes. So 3 separate categories. And while we watch on timing and scoring in the times, was Jordan Witt now, who's in the Nissan this weekend for the first time. Runs a little bit wide, but gets the momentum through club. So Jordan Witt, interesting to see how he adapts to this car. I mean, a mega powerful engine. This is the car that we've seen over the past seasons. It's not the Evo version, the 23, number 23, which is in effect the future for the Nissan GTR.
That's worth pointing out, John. Their livery's relatively similar, so not always that easy to pick out from the side of the circuit. I think there's a little more white on the flanks of the 22, but I have to pick that out. Looking at our chart, very similar indeed. Good time just been banged in by Guy Smith. Now let's just touch on, he's moved up to 6th place in the number 7 Bentley. This is his final outing. He's in his 17th year as a racer for the Bentley team. He took victory at Le Mans in 2003. How is it that long ago? But Guy is going to stand down after this meeting, and it'll be a big sad moment, but he'll stay on with the team as an ambassador. Fantastic person to have around, real gentleman, and his drive will go to South African racer Jordan Pepper. So we're really hoping, John, this weekend, we're really rooting for Guy to, if he could get up on the podium, wouldn't that be amazing?
Flag, Donald Cops, something has happened. So everybody heavy on the full course yellow. Now, is this an incident? Just be a bit
of a practice set.
Maybe it might just be a practice, Bruce, as you're mentioning.
Yeah, we always like to do that just to check. Just can't see any warning on the screens about anybody having gone off the circuit. Can't see anyone at Luffield. A lot of the drivers are going.
Yeah. Oh, there's somebody.
Who was that? Come on, own up.
That's been absolutely murdered. I was just going to say about Guy Smith, I was going to say sayonara, Guy, but he will be around for many years to come in his role with Bentley. There we see the marker. That's on the exit of club. Now there were 2 marker cones there. Somebody may have accidentally, without malice, there you can see actually that the mounting for the cone, another one had been put in place, so that one was well and truly whacked.
Isn't this where we call Brian Henton? Didn't he used to make cones for the motorways? But anyhow, time for an interview, because Alex Riberas is down in the pits and Dakota has caught up with him.
Alex, now you are not only the Blancpain Endurance Championship leader, but you're also the overall championship leader. How are you going to keep on top of this?
Well, you know, it's very early still in the season to talk about championship-wise. You know, I'm really pleased with the way things have gone so far. You know, in Monza we had a kind of an unexpected win, but you know, we are doing the job right in both the sprint and endurance championships. I think if we manage to find a good setup for this weekend, we should be able to be on top as well.
And when will we be expecting to see you in the car during this pre-qualifying session?
I will be in the last session for quali, and yeah, let's see what we can do. But I think it's good that we have this average qualifying for us, since I think our lineup is pretty solid within the 3 drivers, and you know, Chris and Dries are really quick, so that helps me a bit as well.
Let's see how you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, very good to hear from Alex Riberas there, and a very good point he raised to his last answer there about the average qualifying session across all 3 drivers if you've got a really well balanced lineup. And with Christopher Mies, who let's face it has been there, seen it, done it in Audis, and Dries van Toor, that is a really strong trio. So you have to fancy, if the Audi's on the mark, they will be right on the money.
Well, the other thing about the enduro events, they're 3 hours. You've got 2 pit stops and a driver change for those with 3 drivers per car. A lot can happen, and the pit stops frequently are the arbiter of the outcome of one of these events. So you might not maybe have the pace on the racetrack, that ultimate out and out single lap time speed, but if you can shave seconds off on a driver change, tyre change, refuel, it's an awful lot easier to make that time up in the pit lane than it is on the racetrack.
No, exactly so, and we've mentioned this for many years, but Team WRT do not knowingly go into a pit stop not expecting to find an advantage. Good to look at the graphics at the bottom of the screen. Second gear, just around 100 kph. Looking at the Seb Morris in the Team Parker Racing Bentley, and that was right at the sharp end this morning. It was 4th quickest. So that was a bit of a scoop for them there.
You're watching just the speed through Aintree Corner, around about 160 kilometers per hour, up to 210 kilometers per hour before he gets in the brakes. So the car accelerating hard all the way down Wellington Straight, then into this sequence of Luffield, and again it's down to what, 85 or so, round about 50 at the 50 miles per hour, 85 or so kilometers per hour. Now through Woodcote, absolutely flat, 210 at the apex. That's the best part of 130 miles an hour.
Super impressive from the Bentley there. And having talked about this morning's free practice, 90 minutes of fun and games, we had 6 Mercedes in the top 10. How many have we got in the top 10 right now? None, not one. So things keep changing around. In fact, I'm looking further and further down the order trying to find the top Mercedes. I'm almost at the bottom end of the top 10 and top 20. I still haven't seen one. So there you go. The pendulum has swung the other way, but I'm sure Acker ASP will be trying their best to fight back. But Bentley at the moment going very well indeed. 25 Audi, second fastest in the hands of Simon Gachet. Just under half a second down on that phenomenal lap from car number 14 in the hands of Christian Klein. It's now been handed over to Marco Seifried. Certainly a very strong indeed. Sansalot Racing though running the 25 Audi and the 26 Audi. The 26 Audi is being run in the Pro-Am class. That is for Mark Rostan, Neil Stevenart and rather useful hired hand, Marcus Winkelhock.
Marcus, I mean, a legend. I mean, behind the wheel of an Audi R8 V10, there's a man who can do pretty much anything the car will permit him. And the 26 and 25 Sansalot entries performing extremely well this year. I mean, the consistency and performance is a step forward on previous seasons. So the second place Audi, the number 25, Simon Gachet, makes his way round. And this is the sort of the farm village corner loop, part of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, 3.6 miles, 5.890 kilometers, then out through Aintree Corner, runs out perfectly legally, doesn't put all 4 wheels off the racetrack, and that's entirely acceptable to me.
Now, one of the drivers who's been a great hope of British motor racing scene is Oliver Rowland. He's moved from single-seaters this weekend to join us. He's with Dakota.
Oliver, now this is your first race, Blancpain GT, and your first GT race. What is it like being here with such a spectacular grid of cars?
Yeah, it's amazing. Obviously, it's one of my first times driving GT, so it's quite interesting to be on track with so many people. But yeah, it's highly competitive, and yeah, this morning's session went okay. So I'll be out soon, looking to improve on this morning.
Now let's talk about your morning session. You got in a bit of trouble with some warning flags. Explain to me what happened.
Yeah, I was going off track, using too many track limits, but they were giving me warnings, but they weren't coming back to the TV screen, so in the end they had to black flag the car. So, but yeah, we got back out, so but I'll be keeping more of an eye on that later on.
Is this tougher than you thought it was going to be?
Well, no, not really. I've only done like sort of 7 or 8 laps now, so yeah.
A walk in the park for Oliver Rowland. How about that? Good luck, Oliver. Thank you.
You can sense the level of competitors of Oliver there. Third last year in Formula 2. He just wants to get out in the car and just get some track time under his belt. But he's just had his first Formula 1 run with Williams, was it not, this week? And a driver going places. He's going to be competing in the World Endurance Championship as well. So all those years where he was pushed by the Racing Steps Foundation, they pushed him the right way, and he's landed on his feet. And I think he's a driver who really, really can deliver.
Suddenly everyone's slowing down massively coming up into Abbey. So is there a full course yellow yet again? They had one a second ago, and this is the second one. Now, is this for an incident? Doesn't look like anything in Abbey. So everybody absolutely flat out coming out of club corner. Then they get the information, they have to slow down to, you might call it a delta speed, not gain or lose anything on the car ahead or the car behind. And then the full course yellow will be withdrawn, and it's a practice, you can see DQ.
Yeah, no errant squash cones that we can see at the moment. Daniel Karlovitz had just moved up into second place, so the fastest of the Pro-Am runners. But in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari.
Bruce, there'll be drivers driving around who had just begun a good lap, maybe had a green, for example, the 51 had just gone on the AF Corsa Ferrari. Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin, currently that car is in 5th place, second of the Pro-Am entries. So Matt Griffin had just begun a good lap, and all of a sudden he's got to get out of it.
Well, while it's quiet down in the pits, let's go down to Oman Racing with TF Sport to Ahmed Al Hati.
Mohammed, now you had such a good year last year, you know, winning the Pro-Am Endurance, and this year you've moved up to silver, as you said to me before, and now you have a whole new championship and a whole new challenge ahead of you. How are you going to approach this challenge?
Well, you know, it was an amazing year we had last year for sure. Winning the Pro-Am Championship was something that we dreamt of and happened. But now it's very tough because we're in the silver category, and prior to Monza we really didn't know how hard the competition was going to be, and it is extremely difficult in terms of the level of competition, but for sure, you know, we finished 5th at Monza and hoping to do better here at Silverstone. It's our home track. You know, Oman Racing is powered by TF, and that's what it's about, and having the Aston at home is great.
Now you're currently running in 32nd place. Is there any improvement on that, or is it all going to plan?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's doing their own thing in practice and as well as in pre-qualifying. It's just a matter of trying to get the best balance in qualifying and then for the race tomorrow. So it's really not too important at the moment where we are, but as long as we know what we're doing as a team and as a driver's pairing, it's the most important that we're all comfortable in the car. And things are going as we expected, to be honest.
Let's see how you go. Thank you. Good luck.
Well, in the meantime, Michael Meadows in the 35 Mercedes-Benz, he's improved, gone 4th quickest and just 6300th of a second behind the 3rd place position. So all very competitive. There is Matt Griffin, who was on a personal best in Sector 1 when we had the second full course yellow. It is necessary for drivers to go through this practice to understand what will happen if we have a full course yellow during Sunday's 3-hour event.
It was also interesting, just as it went green, we saw Matt accelerate very hard and get all 4 wheels off the circuit. So it was almost this going, this is a race circumstance and I've got to maximise the restart. And I think he's got away with it, that's fine. But again, you have to do these things.
Absolutely right, because the key in a full course yellow is not responding to the track going full course yellow. It's responding to the millisecond that the race director throws the green flag or the green light, that you are on it. You're not sitting there, but you're dialing into, you know, the Archers or something on the radio.
Yeah, and we've seen it before, we'll see it again. Some people just aren't quite there, and the order can change. Someone can find that little bit of track space they need if it's qualifying that may otherwise be denied them. But Matt Griffin, he has just been such a Ferrari mainstay over the years. No wonder Duncan Cameron just loves having him alongside, as well as the fact he's very, very good company, which always works very well.
And he's a contracted driver to AF Corsa, so in effect you might say he goes where the team place him, but he does all his driving with Duncan Cameron in that particular car. Christopher Mies, another really, I think, outstanding member of the WRT Audi team, and you sometimes you get an impression of what a racing driver should look like, and sometimes people think, well, they should look like, you know, film stars, you know, good-looking guys, you know, just stunning, whatever. But Christopher Mies is just a regular, normal-looking guy who's blessed with a natural ability and talent behind the wheel. But certainly, if I had to choose a driver for a long-distance race, he would be on my hit list.
Well, his hit race is pretty phenomenal. He was actually Blancpain Endurance champion, I think it was 2012. I'm having a quick flick at my notes. There it was, yeah, Blancpain Endurance and double-time winner of the Bathurst 12 Hours. That's a race that's really started to grow, a part of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, and you know, for years people around the world, non-Australians, have looked at it and thought, I'd like to race there, and it's really, really finding its form. It's a fantastic place, and Christopher Mies has won it just a mere twice so far.
Just watching cars on the Bathurst and White Panorama circuit, as it's actually known, going over the mountain.
Oh.
I mean, there are a series of corners, which are blind corners, which require 100% commitment. And I look at it and I think, I mean, that is proper commitment, proper race driving. No place for anybody who's a faint heart.
No, and I still slightly winced. Do you remember the shot where Dick Johnson came around the top of the mountain and someone lobbed a great big rock in front? But let's go down to a driver who would always take on a challenge like that, a driver we like enormously. Down with Dakota, Raffaele Marciello.
Raffaele, now something about you is that you always look so calm, cool and relaxed. What is actually going through your mind though?
Nothing. I'm quite okay. The track is quite good for us, so I think we should have a good weekend. So we'll see where we are, but the competition is quite tough as always. Also, Lexus now seems quite quick. Bentley also. So I mean, will be for sure an exciting race.
Is everything going well with the car and the team, the setup so far?
Yeah, I mean, Saturday is quite boring. It's just free practice. We have to discover still the track with a new tarmac, but everything is fine.
Boring. It's definitely nothing but boring. It's very exciting out there. We've got a lot of cars on the grid. Are you worried about the race this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's boring because there is no real competition now. Everyone is hiding for tomorrow. Then when there is like something, in the table, like the quality race, then it's exciting. Now it's just to work well for the race, and now is the boring part, and tomorrow will be fun.
And when are you getting back in the car today?
I think soon, it's my turn, so we'll see.
Better let you go get ready. Thank you.
Actually, Raffaele rather spoiled our thunder, Bruce, because he's talked about the resurfacing here at Silverstone. And in part, that's why we're seeing so much rubber go down, because it's the first time a major event such as the Blancpain Endurance has come to Silverstone. And when you get a fresh surface, you need that rubber down. Eventually what will happen, that line will stop being black and it will turn into almost a grey shade. But we see Ben Barnicoat in one of the two McLarens here this weekend. And McLaren still have yet to crack the consistency that some of the other brands managed to do. Now a lot of it comes down to balance of performance. McLaren has improved dramatically over the last number of seasons, but still is on what I would describe on the edgier side of comfortable in terms of the car's performance and balance.
Yeah, well, certainly seems to be the case so far. But Mercedes striking back because Jules Simkowiak has suddenly slotted up into second place, just 0.2 of a second down on that fantastic time from the number 14 Lexus. But just going back to the subject of the new tarmac laid this year, I was here for a 24-hour race when it was very cold back in March, but the drivers were finding some points you had more grip than you had before, and others you had less grip. And then when you had rain coming down, it changed it again, so they had to learn all their braking points and their turning points that they hadn't had to, they got used to the old ones, but it was the fact it wasn't uniformly more grip or uniformly less grip. But again, that's the sort of challenge a lot of drivers really like, just trying to find their own particular marker. But then, as Oliver Rowland said, if you're getting limited time in the car, not only because your car's been pinged for exceeding track limits, but just when you're sharing an hour and a half with 3 drivers, you don't get much time to do what you want to do.
Maybe there are different constituencies in the tarmac at different parts of the corner. Maybe something, I don't know what the tarmac is constructed of and has been laid on the circuit for the 2018 season. I wonder would it be possible. I'm sure there must be clever people around that can make parts of the racetrack ultra grippy and other parts less grippy. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
And not tell anyone.
What a good idea that is.
So still looking at Ben Barnicoat, his McLaren in 26th place overall, taking a very, very tight line, but he's got 2 greens on the screen, that's a good thing. I'm just trying to see where he's slotted in.
Up to 6th place.
Oh, up to 6th place.
And fastest overall in Sector 3. But the reason is he took about 100 yards out of the corner.
Well, he did, didn't he?
He almost did a Max Verstappen, except he wasn't overtaking somebody.
No, but I do that when on certain racing games for Silverstone. Very good to cut the tightest line you possibly can around Woodcote. How realistic it is, but anyhow, up to 6th place for the McLaren. So there was. It's busy, busy, busy down in the pits. We've been talking McLaren. Let's go to the other Garage 59 car, and Dakota has caught up with Chris Harris.
Chris, it's so nice to see Garage 59 back here and McLaren on the British track and you.
Well, thank you for saying it. Could you help me by finding me about a second and a half on the track? That'd be fine. If you could just find me that, then I'm having the best day ever. As it is, I've got sunshine and McLaren, Silverstone literally blooming, new surface is sticky, it looks wonderful, the Blancpain paddock is expensive looking and wonderful, but I'm not quick enough. So
Are you scared?
I'm not scared. I think we'll find a bit tomorrow. But I'm looking at what I'm doing. It doesn't look like I'm doing it terribly, but I just need to go a bit faster down the straights, brake a bit later, and then maybe it might happen.
So in what sector do you want your overall improvement to come from?
All of them.
Oh no, I don't know if I can give you that, Chris. Sorry.
Look, it's competitive class. I think I was P1 for a bit in the class, then dropped to P3. Everyone's there or thereabouts. I don't quite understand how you do a 57.8 at the front. That to me is snake oil, but it's great. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it.
Well, I'll go have a chat with the pros and I'll let you know how you can improve on your sector times.
Just feedback, it'd be good feedback.
Thank you, Chris. Bye.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, it's not magic, but you just got to get the car dialed in, and it's Ben Barnacle again, very wide on the exit at Aintree. You know, the McLaren, as I say, is a very quick car when you find that absolute, I mean, I keep calling it the sweet spot of performance, the level of balance and grip between the racetrack and the car. And if you haven't found it, and maybe Chris and his McLaren has yet to reach that level, certainly the level that we're seeing right now from Ben Barnacle, currently in 6th place on a 158.2, and this lap is a slower lap.
Well, actually, this is Chris's car. This is Alexander West, who is the least experienced of that trio. Chris Goodwin yet to get on board. Up to 3rd place, though.
Lucas O'Donnell.
So that is a very, very strong run. In the pits at the moment, so no improvement for him in the Nissan. There is the Ben Barnacle car, presumably driver change coming up for the Garage 59 entry. Who's getting aboard? Is it Watson or is it Komi Ledegar coming in next? We will see. Looks like it could be Komi Ledegar. And suddenly, the first sector from the fastest car is at a new level, 35.5 seconds for sector number 1. That is super quick.
Lit up in purple.
That's Albert Costa, the Spanish racer, sharing with Christian Klein, who set the best time.
On board, here we are, Bruce, on board. Coming out of Club Corner, watch through Abbey. Is it flat? Listen. No, he's had to get out of it. The temptation.
The little graphic in the bottom corner so we can see what sort of warp speed he's at. But that first third of the lap, very, very, very strong indeed.
Again, good turn in from the Lexus. We've noticed that when Christian Klein, Albert Costa now behind the wheel. Good turn into the loop. Now watch through Aintree. Car absolute. Well, let's hope the lap time reflects at 51.8. In this sector is about 7/10 down on the ultimate, but maybe he can make up again a little bit of that time. Certainly to improve upon a 157.8 is a big ask, but the Lexus certainly showing, I mean, really impressive pace.
Yeah, just checking if he was coming into the pits. No, he isn't. He's slashing around. I reckon that'll be about a mid 1:58 when he crosses the finish line. Let's have a look, which is a top 10 sort of time. It's not matching his very best. 1:58.4. God, makes good sound, doesn't it?
It's been you can hear that old V8 with the flat plane crank knocking out whatever number of horsepower, 500 and whatever plus horsepower, and before you can blink, you're up into the complex Maggots, Beckett's, and then the exit through Chapel again. Getting the car rotates really, really well. Bearing in mind this is a front engine, mid-engine GT car, and it represents maybe the ethos of what GT cars should be, rather than the mid-engine, rear-engine cars, which have fundamentally been the dominant brands over many years. Again, get to the nose of the car, able to make the car sit down, pick up the throttle, then run down the hill, into Vale, on the brakes, don't ride the curb too much, it unsettles the car, and then to switch back to the left and let the car float out, run the curve, absolutely perfect, then second apex, then yes, just about get away with that one. So,
well, while he's making good progress, again, that was a very, just a nanosecond down in his best time in Sector 1. We'll see what happens in Sector 2. Aston Martin fans can wave their flags because Marvin Kirchhofer has just put the 62 car up at 3rd fastest, just a quarter of a second down the ultimate pace. You don't like smoke in the Bentley garage.
Well,
that's not a good thing for Maxime Sounier.
No, it's not. And I just wonder where that smoke is coming from, whether it's a fluid leak of some description or something more serious. Brakes, well, there's lots of stuff going on in that right wheel arch, whether it's a brake issue. Sometimes if you've been hard on the brakes when you come in to make a pit stop, you can actually get a little bit of pad burning. or disc burning.
This was 5th fastest this morning, John, in the 90-minute session we had then, down at the moment in 27th position. Don't really have an answer just right now for what went on there.
Now that's what we need to get into the Bentley pits and actually say why was there what looked like smoke. It could have been just maybe something localized under the wheel arch with the car now, wheels on, air jack's going to be released in a short time, and then number 8 will be back out on track.
An answer to a question I tried to answer and it got wrong was that I thought it was Courtney Ledegar getting into the 58 McLaren. It's Andrew Watson who's just set that car's fastest first sector. It's sitting 7th on the time charts at the moment, so got into the ballpark, staying in the ballpark, just under 4/10 of a second down on the ultimate pace, but picking it up. So maybe the McLaren crews from Garage 59 are starting to find a bit of balance, but still that mark. 1 minute 57. Right, number 8 back onto the pit apron. Apparently it was new insulation they put on, but didn't put on very well. It caught fire.
Well, maybe
someone wins a prize and
maybe
someone
the
doesn't.
bonding agent, because you know you don't just fit. You have to bond these things to bits of bodywork. So maybe just localized heat, maybe a hot spot under the front guard. We certainly saw stuff, and then they were able to get the car back on its wheels. It's just going to leave pit lane.
Still slightly smoky as it went, though, wasn't it? Did you notice the
There's a
rear
little,
left?
maybe a little residue, but he did spin the wheels up, which you're not really meant to do. You know, if you're being strict about it, you're not meant to spin up the wheels. Certainly in other championships
another
around the
car
world.
we saw sitting in the pit garage is the bright yellow and green Porsche in the background of the long shot. That's just come out with Romain Dubar on board, just set its fastest lap so far, but it's outside the top 20. But Porsche really need to make a move. But one car making a move is car number 88, the Mercedes AMG Team ACA ASP entry, Tristan Vautier, Adam Christodoulou and Raffaele Marciello. Tristan Vautier has put it second fastest, 0.2 of a second down. There's a Santadoc 25 car that's been well placed, but it's starting to slide down to 8th place overall at the moment. Antoine Young taking it over. But here is that 88 Mercedes, second fastest. Tristan Vautier on board. He's now, as I say, 0.195 of a second down, trying to make his way through traffic, but there's plenty of traffic in front of him. He doesn't want that, does he?
He may, no, he's not. I thought he might have had a chance to overtake the Audi coming in, and basically, if I was Tristan Vautier, I would just back out of it and let those two cars go on their merry way, because you don't want to take more out of a set of tyres than you need to do, and certainly this lap you've lost momentum to the Audi ahead directly. Is running slower than the 88 Mercedes-Benz, as is the Lamborghini, so the Lamborghini and the Audi need to either Vautier clear them at the earliest opportunity or let them pull away and then start again.
Well,
number 4.
Yeah, number 4. Jelmer Berman has now become the top Mercedes. We were not bewailing, just mentioning that they had 6 of the top 10 after the first 90 minutes of practice, none in the top 10, but now suddenly in this pre-qualifying session, pretty much halfway through it, at 90 minutes all in, we have number 4 Mercedes in second place, number 88 Mercedes in third, number 90 Mercedes in fourth. So finding a bit of a pattern all over again.
I think I'm getting a feeling that drivers are beginning to enjoy the newly resurfaced Silverstone. And now the Audi pulls over and lets the 88 Mercedes get through, so Tristan Vautier has got that out of the way, and he's got effective, he's coming into the pits, he's decided no point in continuing, but I'm just getting a feel that with the resurfacing, that's the Lucas Stoltz number 4 car, which is currently just
Jelmer Berman.
Jelmer Berman behind the wheel. There is the Dutchman. So track beginning to respond to loads of cars, loads of Pirelli rubber going down, and fundamentally almost working against what would normally be the case, where if you're going onto an old surface racetrack, times would be maybe more difficult to access.
Yeah, and I was keeping an eye on that 911 Porsche. Number 911, it's suddenly vaulted from 25th, 26th position up to 12th. 3/4 of a second down on the ultimate pace. Vincent Abril went out in the number 8 Bentley. We saw it smoking away in the garage, smoking away as it's left. But by golly, it's quick. He's just put the fastest first sector time of anyone. Needs to. He's down in 30th position. But don't forget, this was a car that was 5th fastest this morning. So we'll watch the rest of the lap from Vincent Abril, looking at the bright blue Black Falcon Mercedes come into the pit. So we don't need to see that anymore often happens. You put a camera or a stopwatch in a car and it does exactly what you don't want it to do.
Bruce, that's the car we need to keep an eye on. Vincent Abril is behind the 63 Lamborghini. So coming through second sector, and his second was a personal best, which augurs well for what might be possible. The interference from the car ahead, the aerodynamics, and also the proximity, always slightly unsettling. It always prevents you from maybe being 100% committed. But let's have a look and see what Vincent Abril can do as he comes through the double right-hander at Luffield.
Well, the Lamborghini's not affecting this. Mirko Bortolotti starting to wind up to go onto a quick one. What can the Monegasque do? Where is number 8 going to pop up on the timing screens? 11th place, so he lost a little bit of time in that final sector, but he's only just over half a second down.
And that's Bruce, but that half a second is probably the consequence of running as close as he was to the rear of the 63 Lamborghini, and you've done all the hard yards in the first sector. You've got a personal best in the second sector. You've got that on your screen in the cockpit. You know it's a good lap, and then you go, oh no!
Yeah, you try your hardest not to let it put your head down. Now, yes, he's got a nice slipstream down the Hangar Straight. How much has the pace picked up for Abril? His first sector not too bad actually, just a blink of an eye down on the very best time through there. Mirko Bortolotti, how is his pace picking up? Yeah, not a bad opening sector, possibly about a third of a second down on where he would like to be in the 63 Lamborghini. But twitch, yes. The slide well. Yeah, that wasn't too bright there from Vincent, unfortunately.
I mean, get out of it now, Vincent. You ran behind Bortolotti. It was not serving you any purpose. Bortolotti currently down in 24th place. He's continuing to do his run. I mean, this is the rub of the green, as they say, the rub of the tarmac in this case at Silverstone, where you catch up to another car which is about to set out on a run. There's no regulation in practice, free practice, that says you've got to get out of the way of a quicker car. It's only when it comes to a race, where it may have a bearing on the outcome of the event, that you would be required to step aside and let the quicker car go through, or you're more or less by the blue flag being sent. So Vincent Abril undoubtedly disappointed that the previous lap was the lap that he could have maybe put that Bentley up into the top 6. He's currently in 8th place. Maybe could have got it as far as the top 3.
Looking at the McLaren of, Chris Goodwin's taken over from Alexander West. Let's see what Chris, long time McLaren test driver, he's now moved on to pastures new after about 20 years of developing their road cars and driving pretty much every McLaren race car, including all the wonderful historic collection of cars. But his teammate Chris Harris was saying, give me that snake oil, help me find some pace for the car. But at the moment, outside the top 40, we have 50 cars in all, and John is working hard.
Yeah, just it's the amount of work that Chris is having to input into the steering wheel is part of the reason why the pace from the 188 McLaren is still looking to be drawn out of it. You don't need to be making all these adjustments mid-corner to try and keep the car tracking in a way which is, again, big load of understeer mid-corner, then having to take it off as the back steps up, put it back on again to come to the exit of the corner. All that is doing is representing time lost. So although it might be personal best in the first and second sectors, for the McLaren it's still really not very good. 47th quickest.
Yeah, it's not yet there. 50 runners in this field. I'm sure the next lap from Chris will be quicker still, unless traffic gets in the way. Suddenly we got a time on the screen that's looking very, very good from Raffaele Marciello, the number 88 Mercedes. There is Chris Harris and Alexander West looking at what John was seeing on the screen there and pointing out perhaps some changes need to be made. So 2 drivers really going for it at the moment. Raffaele Marciello, fastest in second sector. He's third fastest at the moment, but Vincent Abril, we saw him drop back off the tail of Mirko Bortolotti. He has now set the fastest time in the first sector, so they're both absolutely flying around this lap. Abril in the number 8, Bentley down in 8th place. Chris, again, we're back on board. We're back again with Chris Goodwin, John.
Yeah, so gets the nose of the car in, but here's the car, second sector time. We're still waiting to see what that second sector time is on our timing and scoring. It hasn't yet popped up. The car is now into the final 2 turns in Luffield. So Vincent Abril has regrouped. He's got clear air. There is a car ahead of him, but it's not close. He's got back up again to the Lamborghini.
He's caught up and he needs to get in the top 2. He needs to be into 157s because Marciello did improve into second place.
58.419 for the Bentley. That's an improvement in time, but it doesn't do anything. And it's slightly confusing.
They were waiting for the screens to catch up. There's been a bit of a timing glitch, but what we can tell you for sure, it's still the number 14 Lexus at the top of the field with a 1 minute 57.8. Raffaele Marciello went second, also with a 1 minute 57.8. And you know what? That's not good enough for Raffaele. Super cool Italian who thought it's all rather boring on a Saturday, frankly, has just set the fastest first sector of anybody in the 88 Mercedes, that dark blue one with the white stripes on the side. And still, Vincent Abril fights on, but this lap not so quick. He's backed off a little bit. He's about a second down in the first sector. And maybe that was his best shot. It still keeps him in 11th place, but we think there's a glitch on the timing screen.
Yeah, timing and scoring, there's a couple of gaps in the second and third sectors for a number of cars that are currently on laps. 62 certainly got fastest personal best in sectors 1 and 2. And
that's the Aston Martin.
They are the Aston Martin, Alex Brundle, Maxime Martin, Marvin Kirchhofer. So Maxime Martin behind the wheel of that 62 Aston Martin.
So the middle sector of the three, not so good for Raffaele Marciello, but his first sector was quickest of all. And suddenly the BMWs that weren't anywhere in the first session, they got to the top-ish, the top 5 runners. I think they were first and third fleetingly. Now starting to make a move. Jesse Krohn down in 17th, but he just set the fastest middle sector of anybody. And as it stands, the top 10 cars covered by half a second. This is more how we like it.
The timing and scoring has now reset itself, so we're getting something which indicates that everything is back to normal. But you can just see Raffaele Marciello is really, he puts, and I describe it as putting energy into the car, into the tyres. Some drivers got the capacity to do it. Others don't do it because they lack that sense of confidence that the car will be with them. But Raffaele Marciello has none of those concerns whatsoever. He just gets in, commits, and makes the car respond to his inputs.
He certainly does. And the victory sign, or the V for Vautier from Tristan, leaning against the garage wall there, but now up in front of Raffaele. There's a whole gaggle of cars, so might as well come to the pits. One of the coming in very slowly as, in fact, wrong pit lane. That's the Grand Prix pit lane in the background, but Nissan cruising in, and Raffaele, I think, may be doing likewise. But Jesse Krohn did improve, went up to third place, so he's the third driver, or third car, to go under 1 minute 58. We've got the 14 Lexus, top of the charts, 1 minute 57.850. Raffaele Marciello in the number 88 Mercedes, looking at there, 1 minute 57.891. Jesse Krohn, number 99, there he is, not so far behind on the track from Marciello, 1 minute 57.948 for the Finn. And Jesse has a very busy year, racing stateside as well in BMWs, so he really is enjoying his craft, found his feet big time in GT racing.
Fred Makovic, we just got a glimpse there as the Porsche 911. They've quietly got on with the job. They're up currently inside the top 20. Okay, it's only 16th, but knowing the Manthey Racing team and knowing how Porsche operate, they know when it's important to be quick. A lot of this work will be done for the race, because this race will start, well, it'll be coming into the final hour very shortly, if not already. So this represents information for the team, for the race. They know what they've got when it comes to out-and-out pace. There's one of the two BMWs that's very wide on the exit. That might have been Jesse Krohn on the exit of Hop's corner. Let's watch the Frenchman and see how he can. I mean, for a car that's got all the weight over the rear wheels, looks pretty well in terms of the front end bite and grip. He can get the front wheel just over the curb on the inside to give him the maximum exit speed all the way down Hanger Straight, flashing his lights to the cars ahead to say, I'm on a hot lap, be prepared, I will be coming through.
Yeah, not so long ago we saw this car in the hands of Romain Dumas, 12th fastest, now as John pointed out, down to 16th. But there is going to be an improvement on this lap as long as that traffic does not get in the way. Car number 24 being given the black and white warning flag for exceeding track limits. It's the Writer Youngstars Lamborghini, that the Gallardo, it's worth pointing out. Mads Siljehaug, Lenny Marionek, and the star in that car, Patrick Niederhauser. But green on the screen is for the yellow and green, the Grello as we call it, the Grello Manthey Racing Porsche. Vicky is twitching as well.
Oh no, Fred is on it. Fred knows only one way to drive a car. It's either full off or full on. And he always has that happy looking grin on his face. Slightly wide in the loop, not ideal.
But he's been noted for exceeding track
limits.
Well, there we go.
And
there's another one. I think that's the same point.
He kept the wheels in the black and white curbing. He didn't get all four wheels onto the AstroTurf. I think it's the four wheels on the AstroTurf and the exit of Aintree that's going to catch the attention of the race director, but nonetheless, track limit warnings for the 99, whether it's Fred Makiewicz or whether it's any of the other Dirk Werner or Romain Dumas.
Jack Manchester sitting up ahead of him.
Yep.
Less experienced by far, but really gaining valuable experience. And what happened with the time there for Makiewicz up to 14th place? So he's 0.6 of a second down. Could have been slightly more if it hadn't been for the Manchester car just in the past. But the speed is there now, I would reckon. But he's having to fight for it.
They're getting there. I mean, it's not an easy speed. He got past the Jack Manchester Mercedes. I think that was an assist from Manchester. Let the Porsche go down the inside. But of course, in doing so, the Porsche's then having to turn in from the middle of the racetrack, not from the racing line, so that will have cost on this lap maybe a tenth or two for Fred Makiewicz.
Another thing I always have to conduct when looking at a Blancpain sprint or endurance grid is, where is Mirko? And number 19th position for Mirko Bortolotti, the 63 Lamborghini that's been so strong in recent years. So still for Lamborghini, the battle continues to find the pace they're looking at to get themselves back towards the front of the field. You know, in race trim that Mirko Bortolotti and his crew with Christian Engelhardt will really, really be giving it their all. They're always fantastic in the race, and Andrea Caldarelli is the third of that trio. But this year it's that little bit harder.
Well, I think the balance of performance has been reassessed for a number of teams, and I think the Strakka Racing car, particularly at 63, I know that Mirko mentioned to me at Brands Hatch they were carrying additional weight compared, let's say, to a comparable Audi, which undoubtedly had a bearing on the performance of Brands Hatch. And here at Silverstone, I don't know what the particular weight adjustments might be, but if you're seeing a Lamborghini, particularly the 63 Lamborghini, running a little bit outside the top, well,
just moved to 20 from 19th to 21st position.
Outside the top
9/10 of a second down.
You know there's a reason for it.
Okay, something else happening right now as we look at that replay is the fact that the second of the Lexuses is up into 9th place, so they're first and 9th. First place for number 14 and 9th place now. Marcus Paltela has just moved up and he's improving this time around. He's a third of a second down. He's in fact under 0.3 of a second down. If he could gain a tiny bit, he could be up 4th and 5th quickest, and certainly coming very good indeed for Emil Frey. Sister car in the pit lane at the moment. The second fastest car, the number 88 Mercedes, also in the pit lane. Jesse Krohn, though, has had a series of good laps in that 99 BMW. He is third fastest. Who else is on the move? Well, the 98 BMW down in 10th position. That is looking pretty quick indeed, as is that number 114 Lexus.
So 23, Matt Parry. We just got a glimpse of him in the Nissan. They're currently in 7th place. There is the 23 car. Swings into Cops. Matt Parry, I mean, a young, fresh driver out of a single-seater background, bringing all that natural speed and you might call it aggression to GT racing. And what we have seen over a number of years is by young guys looking to GT3 racing, the Blancpain Sprint and Endurance Championships in particular. And there is an emphasis change. This is no longer the domain of the gentleman racer or the semi-professional. It is very much a target area for people like Matt Parry, who know that they can bring something to this form of racing, which is certainly going to take it forward in terms of its visual appeal, both as a spectator at a racetrack, but also to the TV viewer, all those who want to stream, watch it online, whatever your choice.
Yeah, and not all of the top young single-seater racers who come across make it good, because they have to sort of almost relearn how they go racing, particularly if you're part of an endurance lineup. You've got two teammates and it can't be all your tune that's being danced to.
Big difference between being a racer in a single-seater to being a member of a three-driver lineup.
Something that is very different is we've seen 2 spins from the number 1 Audi, and now reported the stewards for speeding in the pit lane. This is not the behaviour you expect and the events you expect from a team that's normally absolutely on top of its game, and I think that shows just how hard the number 1 crew is pushing to try and keep up. And looking on our timing screens, Christian Mies in the car at the moment, down in 27th position. This is the car that won the opening race of the series at Monza.
Wait
and see, I know.
Wait until qualifying, because what we're watching now is, I think it's really a very intense and exciting session. This morning took a little bit of time to warm up, but this is certainly much more like what I'd imagined we were going to get. And of course, qualifying tomorrow morning will be in the much cooler air of Silverstone, but that cooler air is normally a little bit more dense, therefore good for the power units. Let's call them engines. I know it's not politically correct to call. But Matt Parry, what do you think you're doing? You're not going off to the countryside and a pub trip, are you? Qualifying will start on Sunday morning at 9:45. Compared to where we are now, just 5 o'clock. Much cooler than it will be right now.
And looking at the sky, don't expect all that rubber to get washed away, because it's absolutely wonderful sky. Tiny bit of cloud, but it's very, very fair weather cirrus. We do not have to worry. Looking at the quick times, they're not going to come from the cars right at the top of the chart, because 5 of the top 6 runners are in the pits, a couple more at the bottom end of the top 10. And still at this late stage, drivers are being warned for track limits. Seeing them going too wide. Mirko Bortolotti, always keeping an eye on him. He's just gone up a position, but only to 20th. He's 3/4 of a second down. So that is not exactly where he wants to be.
So back to the Nissan. So let's see how the young British driver, not afraid to let the car run wide. There is the Lamborghini 63, Mirko Bortolotti, who has managed to claw his way up into the top 20. I've been saying top 20 last season. This was pretty much the driver car pairing that was dominant through the entire season.
It's very hard for a driver, if he has had a dominant season, to have to suddenly find himself in the middle of the pack, and it's how they react to it, how the team reacts to it. But it does mean they absolutely have to hit every one of their marks to stay in the hunt at the moment. Yes, it's been this balanced performance swing seemingly against the Lamborghinis. It's brought them back into the pack, and Mirko Bortolotti, actually, to be honest, with him and particularly Christian Engelhardt, such good teammates. There's the car going to the pits. They're the sort of guys who, if anyone can, will claw it back up the order all over again. But right now it's proving quite a steep slope.
Yes, it is. And then with Andrea Caldarelli as the third driver in that 63 car, again, stellar driver lineup. Any one of those 3 drivers you'll be happy to pick to put into your particular fantasy Blancpain GT Endurance driver lineup.
Most certainly. So still that site. It's been very, very quick indeed in the world of Lexus. So let's go down to Albert Costa.
Albert, now you're currently running in P1. All good so far, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been so lucky. We had a good start this morning. The car is good, but we've been so lucky also with the traffic. I hope tomorrow we have the same pace in the qualifying, in the real qualifying, because we had no issues during our quickest lap that Christian who did. And I hope tomorrow we can set the same pace. And yeah, tomorrow is going to be much quicker. Everybody is going to show at the pace. So let's see tomorrow. I hope tomorrow we have the same good luck as today with the traffic and the tires and everything. We did a proper simulation qualifying. So let's see tomorrow.
Now, to my understanding, your previous races, you had a few setup problems, you had a few problems working with the new Pirelli compound. Are those fixed?
Yeah, well, we knew that the car was competitive because I showed it in a different championship. I wasn't on top. But once you get the Pirelli tires from 2018, it's different stuff, you have to understand, to learn. And during the preseason, we never had the time to understand the car, to do a proper setup. We always been struggling with the weather, with this, with that. Also with all the drivers, we were sick during the test, so we missed it. And finally, during the race weekend, we started to improve the car every free practice, qualifying, even in the race, especially in the sprint series. And in the sprint series, in the last races, we also find something that we were happy. We say, I think we don't set the pace because we were nowhere at the end, but we have something inside our body that I'm happy and confident. So we came here, and we're starting to see the result of the work to Spain now, but it's only pre-qualifying, so we'll see tomorrow.
Good stuff, thank you.
Well, very happy individual there. That's the 14 Lexus crew at the moment. Marco Seefried going out there, but it wasn't just one very quick lap. There was a second quick lap in there as well. So maybe a bit of luck with the traffic, Albert Costa explained, but the pace is there. There is the sister car, 114, just at the tail end of the top 10, in 10th with Stefan Ortelli at the wheel. Another car that's just made an improvement is Komi Ledegar in the 58 McLaren up to 6th place. So, John, maybe things are starting to come the way of the McLaren crew. It's 0.228 of a second down on the overall pace. Let's see what Stefan Ortelli to do. He's not going to improve on that lap. There was an out lap, and now he's going to start a flying lap. So we'll see if we can get a second Lexus up to the front. Again, as we commented earlier, that wonderful V8 burble as he goes through comps up over the rise, then jinking left towards Maggots, and then flicking right into Beckett's. And by golly, that looks very, very well balanced indeed.
Yeah, the car carrying good speed. let's see, looked very similar to the 14 that Carl Christian Klein set the time initially in. So it looks as if Lexus have done a very good job in the development of this car. Again, I would cost of mentioning the different tyre. The 2018 rear Pirelli has been designed to give a more stable platform from getting into the corner, mid-corner, exit of the corner. So that is something that is fundamentally helping everybody. In particular, I think it was a big step forward for the McLaren team, and led Komagar has now shown that with a very strong 6th quickest time, just 0.2 of a second away from the overall fastest single lap by the 14 Lexus.
Well, exactly, only about a 1/10 down on that. So far is this Lexus, the 114 car, and Stefano Ortelli has just set the fastest first sector of that. He's under 0.3 of a second down on the sister car, so if he can gain a 1/10 of a second, he'll move up about 5 positions. But this is just pre-qualifying, but it's still a useful sight. But let's just reiterate that tomorrow morning qualifying will be in much cooler conditions. There'll be a bit more rubber yet put down, but they're going out at 9:45 for the first of the sessions, the first of the 3 sessions that go bang bang bang,
yes,
really quick together.
And don't forget, we mentioned it in the broadcast earlier in the morning, that now for qualifying, all 3 drivers in the 3-car lineup will have to do one of the 3 segments, and they then are combined. So it changes the entire dynamic of qualifying, and I think it's great.
I think it's fantastic. And also another thing I think is fantastic is the fastest AM runner is within a second of the fastest time today. Philippe Gioc in the number 89 ACA ASP entry. He's sharing with Eric Debar, and it's a goal. No, it isn't. Fabien Barthez. And so that is quite something around a circuit like this. 26th it may be. That's still a good position in a 50-car field, but just under a second down on what is a very impressive pace at the top. But actually the gap between first and second is only 0.04 of a second. Certainly Raffaele Marciello got that 88 Mercedes very close indeed. Stefano Ortelli did not improve in that lap, but he's still running very competitive mid-1 minute 58s.
Yeah, I mean, just getting a couple of laps where you're not having any interference from a car coming to the conclusion of a lap, or you're just turning into cops and you look to your right and then you see somebody coming out. But it's Stefano Ortelli on this lap, fastest overall time, runs wide in club, gets it back again. I don't think that will get too much attention. The back end stepped out more than it was an Ortelli benefit. So overall fastest in sector 1, currently 11th quickest, Bruce. He's got traffic ahead. Yeah, but new fastest time, it's Ewan Hankey. He was down in 38th position and he's suddenly moved up in 1 lap to first. 1 minute 57.447. He's 0.4 of a second clear. This is a driver who I think has been fantastic in an Aston Martin. He's now in the Ram Racing Pro-Am Mercedes. Darren Burke, Sally Jolik, but Ewan Hankey is the absolute star in that car and fastest final sector of anyone. And yes, Stefano Ortelli is pushing on now, very hard indeed. He's lost a bunch of time in the second sector. He's lost the best part of 0.8 of a second, and that has pretty much scuppered any prospect of. He may find a small amount of improvement, but the reality is, if he improves beyond 11th, it'll be 1 position. I suspect he comes across start-finish line now. 158.350, 0.2 down on his previous fastest lap. So where that time was lost, difficult to say.
Well, that big moment out at club when he jinked out over the curbs. Ewan Hankey, though, not satisfied in the 49 Ram Racing Mercedes for being fastest. He's going faster still on this lap around the opening sector of the course, and John, you pointed to the 33.33.
Yes, just coming in division down Hanger Straight. It is the quickest currently I beg your pardon, second quickest. Alexander Matashul of the Pro-Am entries. It is still the 49 Mercedes that is the fastest Pro-Am, fastest overall.
Yeah, but he's just backed off or got blocked by traffic. Ewan Hankey in that 49 Mercedes, but certainly that was a sensational lap. 38th up to first in 1 lap. 42 is now second fastest, just 0.3 of a second down. We haven't seen so much. That's Lewis Williamson, another Mercedes from Strakka Racing. That's also a Pro-Am runner. He's showing that with Nick Leventis and Chris Buncombe.
I mean, it's very amusing when we see a blue number coming up on our timing and scoring. That indicates a Pro-Am entry. But of course, it's the Pro and the Pro-Am entry that is setting these times. But it's indicative of what the Pro's responsibility is, because whatever he does in qualifying will help draw the pace of the AM or the gentleman driver, whichever it may be, along. And it is it is so important now for the pro driver to deliver as it is for the AMs to deliver. It is, I mean, I've mentioned this dynamic of qualifying changing dramatically. I think it's the best thing that Blancpain Endurance has done to really mix and match the grid.
Yeah, and I think if all three drivers are going to go out in the race, it's also important that they do their run in qualifying. So that is what's happening. It makes it easier to understand. It also, through the 3 sessions, leads to the order changing constantly. It must be like a blur, the timing screen, but just worth keeping an eye on that number 42, Lewis Williamson driven Strakka Racing Pro-Am Mercedes. There's 49, that's Ewan Hankey, who's fastest of all, but going better than him around this lap, on pretty much the same point on the circuit, is the Scot, Lewis Williamson. So he could be going towards the very top. He's second fastest at the moment. The 49 Mercedes, you can see 001 flashing on the windscreen. That is fastest of all. Shared with Sally Yoluk, of course, a long-time teammate and partner there of Ewan Hankey, but Hankey really, really delivering.
I think what's impressive about the Mercedes-AMG GT3, it is what I describe as a turnkey GT3 car. And you've got drivers that have not been racing in these cars in championships over the last season or in the SLS, the earlier version, and they can just jump into it and go quick. And that is a really good indication of what is, in my view, a great GT3 car.
Yes, it was a real step up when it was introduced. So much nicer to drive than its predecessor, and going very well indeed. So that 49 entry from Ram Racing, Darren Burke, the third driver in the crew, Sally Yoluk and Ewan Hankey. The BMWs rose towards the top, down to 5th place now. Jens Klingman on board the 99 car, but very much in the mix. Just going back to 63 Lamborghini watch, they're down to 23rd place overall, 1.1 seconds down. There is the 42 car from Strakka Racing with the yellow flashes on the side, second fastest in the hands of Lewis Williamson.
Well, there's been changes. Maxime Soulet in the number 8 Bentley, he's up to 14th, fastest lap, 158.2, and that's 3/4 of a second behind the current leading 49 Mercedes. And in fact, it's the top 19 cars currently covered by just under 1 second. That's the 53 car in 19th place, the AF Corsa Ferrari.
Well, no improvement coming this lap for Lewis Williamson. Bit of traffic up ahead, so he's got that choice that John has pointed out before. Back off, give yourself space, go for it on the next lap. But right now, Lewis getting pretty close as they go down the Wellington Straight, getting close to one of the Santalok Audis.
You're really having to keep our eyes sharp on these screens because times, purple sector times are popping up from time to time. Loads of green, for example, in 17th place, the 76 R-Sport Aston Martin, green in sector 1, and that's Kurt Team, or Nicky Team, Kurt Team, I don't know who
Nico
it is.
Team.
No, Nicky Team. One of my heroes again from, I think, 3 years ago, again at Spa when he jumped into an Audi, and I mean, it was as impressive as Raffaele Marcello was in 2017. Nicky Team, I think it was 2016, was an absolute monster behind the wheel for the WRT Audi team.
Well, Lewis Williamson keeping pressure when he's not hanging back to try and make a bit of a gap, but Nicky Team, just talking about him, he's set his fastest first sector, his fastest second sector, so he's in the 76 R Motorsports Aston Martin, sharing that with Jake Dennis and Mathieu Vassivière. Just waiting to see the move.
Yeah, the sister car, 62, Alex Brundle behind the wheel. In fact, he's now in the pit lane. So that car is just actually was 9th, it's just been dropped to 10th because the sister car, 76 Nicky Team, has popped up into 8th. So it's all happening here in 15 minutes to go.
Most certainly is, and still drivers are being warned for exceeding track limits. Car 911, which was I think in the hands of Fred Machiavicchi at the time, and car number 55 also being watched. That's the one of the 2 Attempto Racing Audis. Pierre Caffer, Nicholas Pola, Jeffrey Schmidt, don't know who was at the wheel at the time, and a black and white flag to car number 26. That is the official warning as opposed to just we're looking at you. Car 26 for the second of the Santalok Racing Audis. That's the Pro-Am version of Mark Rostan, Neil Stevelart and Marcus Winkelhock.
Who is the culprit?
Who is the culprit? He's down in 26th position. Sorry, he's in car 26 in 40th position. So time needs to be found. 2 seconds down on the ultimate pace. Still Lewis Williamson. The Scot presses on in the Strakka Racing Mercedes. Have you walked up to look at the Strakka Racing facility with that lovely, lovely 300 SL up there in the paddock? You will
I will do. I mean, 300
190 SL.
300 SLs are in profusion on this year's Mille Miglia, an event I took part in last year, in a beautiful little Porsche Prie 356, co-driven by the lovely Lindsay. And I tell you what, it was a wonderful experience.
But a hard work experience all the same, wasn't it? I remember you came back and said it's not just a case of driving around lovely Italian roads. You've got to work at it.
Yeah, you do. Jürgen Herring in 991. And we're looking to see where 991 is not on our timing sheets.
No,
So
outside the top 40, we've got 50 runners, so still 10 cars we cannot see on our timing screen to let you know what exactly is happening. Among them was the 188 McLaren, Garage 59's AM entry of Alexander West, Chris Harris and Chris Goodwin, still trying to find some form, as is this, the Herbert Motorsport Porsche. Just the two Porsches here, we'd like to have more. We've got the Manti Racing one, and this, the bright green one, is from Herbert Motorsport.
So still getting track limits. Nicky Team and Car 88, the Mercedes, are being warned at turn 9. I think that's the exit of Club Corner, where you come on to what is the Formula 1 grid start-finish line. It's a corner that is routinely abused. And I'll leave it there.
Yes, well, we've seen it. We've seen the squash cones. It's Klingman 99 BMW, 5th fastest at the moment. Haven't had a really quick lap from that car for a while. I think it was one of his teammates who set the time. Yes, it was. It was Jesse Krohn who set the time. The 5th, and put it up to what was 3rd. It's fallen down to 5th, but into the final quarter of an hour. And another car, we just mentioned it, I'm totally sorry, the 188 McLaren, mentioned it, and no sooner had we done that, and they're reported to the stewards for pit lane speeding. Was it the driver coming in or the driver going out? It doesn't matter, the warning has been issued. Off to the stewards for you.
Yes, Alexander West, Chris Harris and Chris Goodwin. So we don't know. I mean, certainly Chris Harris was bemoaning, how do you, even asking our pit lane reporter, where is the difference in my lap time to that, which was the quickest lap time some time ago. Now it's the 49 Mercedes, 157.447, and that is a pretty impressive time. 12 minutes or so remaining.
Well, here's a replay.
And somebody's off at Aston again.
Martin 62. He's just been warned for track limits.
And who's behind the wheel of that?
It's at the moment it's Alex Brundle in 10th place.
Father is here and mother.
Oh well. There is nowhere to hide.
Nowhere at all. Now, father and mother may have left early, but anyway. You know.
Final warning for track limits. That's the Santalok Audi, the 26 Audi, one of the two of them. That's their Pro-Am entry. So the warning's coming thick and fast. And in the final few minutes, the quicker times are not coming so much thick and fast. I think most of the teams have sort of worked through their programme. The tyres getting later in their life, but track conditions look absolutely fantastic here at Silverstone, and I think that fastest lap of 1 minute 57.447 by Ewan Hankey in the 49 Ram Racing Mercedes was very impressive indeed. Was setting an even faster pace on the next lap, but then backed off, caught traffic, and the times hasn't come. He's just completing another lap. Just going to see what sort of time he does for this lap past the start finish line. Oh, well, 6 minutes 44, so there's been a pit stop involved in there. I thought we hadn't seen him for a while.
Be interesting to get a reaction across the pit lane to this new surface on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. So far, from what we've heard, it's been universally praised, and it's getting its first really major outing. A 3-hour event will certainly take the top of that new tarmac, get it down to what will then be the consistent level, let's say, when we get into July for the British Grand Prix. But times certainly improving as a consequence to this revised and new surface.
It's funny when you look on as a spectator, you think, well, it's just tarmac. Well, how could it be so different? But it can come in many different forms and just vaguely different changes that make the world of difference.
If you like cured meat, you'll understand why or how a racetrack cures. You know, a bit of prosciutto or something of that nature that's been hung. This is a racetrack that is maturing. You know, you hang a ham to dry out, or a racetrack surface kind of does the same sort of thing.
John, to me, lunch
Doesn't taste the same,
John,
Bruce.
lunch
Bruce,
seems hours ago to me. I've had a very long day, and now you've made me feel really dreadful. But
Bruce, I can guarantee you Tarmac doesn't taste like prosciutto. I know what I prefer, but if you get the benefit of a new surface, it can deliver in spades.
So Nick Leventis taking over the 42 car, the second fastest at the moment. That was the time was delivered by Lewis Williamson. So the team patron out there, 3 Strakka Racing Mercedes. Of course, Strakka Racing ran McLaren's last year. Changed this year. The cars look really good. I always like their corporate liveries, and they very much like the day glow colours on a black background. So that's always been their marker when they've been racing at Le Mans and the World Endurance Championship. Great to have them on board, and great to have them up at the front end. But at the moment, it's not their Mercedes top of the charts. It's the 49 entry from Ram Racing. Damn shuffle bottom of the boys. With Darren Burt sharing that with Sally Yoluk, and the driver who set the time, Ewan Hankey.
So looking across both screens, there's a lack of green or purple.
But what there is, John, is black. Black flag for car 24. That is the Writer Young Stars. Who was the offender? Was it Mad City Howard? Was it Lenny Marionek or Patrick Niederhauser? Their team manager's going to find out, because he's off to see the race director immediately.
Currently they are in 37th position, but that's all been brought to a stop as and this is back on with 63. Bortolotti, Engelhard, and third driver named Caldarelli.
Well, let's have a look.
Andrea Caldarelli behind the wheel.
Yeah, we've seen both Engelhard and Bortolotti bouncing over the curves, really having to attack them at Maggots in particular and Beckett. But Caldarelli there just having a few moments.
Just watching the gear shifts up to 5th gear, and he holds it as he comes into Abbey. 190 kilometers per hour. So around about 118, 120 miles an hour. Then back into Farm, gets the apex nice and neat and tidy. And then again, loop is one of those corners you can maybe take a different line every lap and doesn't really seem to have a huge amount of effect on your overall lap time. But getting through Aintree is important because it comes on to one of the quicker stretches of the circuit under the access bridge that leads into the paddock at Silverstone, then down, and you go past the British Racing Drivers Club suite on the right hand side, and then immediately you're out of Brooklands, your first part of Luffield, let it run out wide, then make it draw back down, and then get the car straight as you can because you're going into the pit lane.
Time immemorial, it happens right with the car, it will pull off a circuit. So, some of the front runners now coming back out of the pit, 7.5 minutes remaining until the checkered flag will bring this 90-minute session to a close. We've had 2 full course yellow periods where the drivers had to back off. One for a cone that had been squashed, just needed to be removed on the exit of club. The other one I think was more of just a simple rehearsal to make sure that another tranche of the drivers had a chance just to make sure they know how to operate. So the 63 Lamborghini pulls to a halt. They're the garage closest to pit exit. Unfortunately for them, they're not even in the top 20, down in 24th position, 1.1 seconds down on the ultimate pace. That's still with the 49 Ram Racing Mercedes.
Well, last moments or so, 6 3/4 minutes of this second free practice session to run, and things beginning to brew up, I think, pretty nicely indeed. What is evidently clear, it is this brand Mercedes, and Ewan Hankey currently still fastest car on track. His last lap, 158.2, 0.8 of a second down on his single quickest lap, but that's maybe because of the usage of the tyres. Again, going into Abbey, round about 200 kilometers per hour, roughly 120 miles an hour, and it just seems to me that Mercedes, it's all the mid-front engine cars that are pretty much dominant, even the BMW in 5th place. I can't think the first, where is the first? It's number 90, I think, is the first no, it's not. It's not even that. I mean, where have you got to look for a mid-rear engine car in the top 10? Is it Led Comagar in the 58 McLaren?
I think you're right. Yes, it is in 9th place overall. So we might be getting an improvement. Someone else moving up to the front in a sort of front engine car. It's the ACA ASP Mercedes, and it's Michael Meadows at the wheel, sharing that with Vitaly Petrov and Denis Bulatov, and he will be moving up the order. Where's he moved up to?
He's moved one position to 17th, so
he's 0.8 of a second down. A few of the runners just reporting to the pit lane. One of the Rinaldi, in fact, both the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris are just spotted in there. Strakka Racing be doing their best. Number 25 Audi was at one point up in second place. Christopher Haas is the car that's just actually been pushed a position down the charts by Michael Meadows' Mercedes. The number 25 car, well, it is late in the session, just out of the pit lane though, so he's starting to pick his way up the order in terms of finding himself some track position. In fact, quite a few cars now just starting to. Oh, someone's had a big off. Actually, on the exit
of where's it gone?
Woodcote.
Can't see where the car's gone.
Did it then go across the track and go into?
I wondered if that hit a marker.
I think it is. It's a marker board. But there's a lot of dust. That's now settling. Exit of Woodcote.
Polystyrene has been shredded. Somebody coming out of Luffield got off the curb onto the grass.
Well, here's a replay. And it appears to be number 10 Aston Martin. Is that Alex Brundle? What a fantastic bit of direction there to pick that one up. You can see the bodywork tattered on the side. Well, in fact, that's not the bodywork. That's off the bit of polystyrene he's demolished. There was an elf logo going flying out of the side.
Dad will not be happy if that's Alex, because that could be a bill. And this look at there, you can see absolutely trashed, but well and truly off the track, all four wheels into the gravel, and it was. We're looking to see who is behind the wheel at the present time. 62. It looks as if it's Alex.
Look, there he is. He's on the screen.
Look, innocence personified. Me, mate. No, not me, mate. Sorry, mate. We saw you.
Yeah, a good spot with the dust flying in the air. We could just see it out of our commentary position. We're on the exit of Woodcote. That was halfway round Woodcote, but he was also halfway across the grass towards the tarmac on the outside of the corner. So that's turn 17 out of the 18. It's sort of between Luffield and Woodcote. Aston Martin still going, however. 10th place on the chart at the moment. And the sister car, the other SRO Motorsport, number 76, their entry is 8th. So the car's competitive, but coming slowly now. Maybe waiting for more bits to drop out. Now he's picking up the pace all over again, just checking things over.
He's got a load of grass in the air intake under the bonnet, so obviously the temperatures would have started to rise pretty rapidly. And there is an Audi doing much the same thing. That's the 66 Audi, and that's gone grass cutting as well.
Yeah, well, that was going quite well early on. At the moment it's in the hands of Van der Linde, so you expect good things, because he's certainly been very, very competitive in Audis, but Kelvin van der Linde not quite getting it correct.
Oh, big time.
Well, in fact, nowhere near not correct. That's where we saw the SMP Racing Ferrari off this morning, but the Ferrari beeped. That one kept going, and that's where the mud went onto the splitter.
Indeed. I suspect, we didn't really caught the end of it, was as he made the turn to the left, the back end stepped out and he had to put the lock on. In effect, was an overcorrection, but the option was easiest was to go straight on, except as we saw on the 62 Aston Martin, now on the Audi, that the air intakes are going to be absolutely clogged with grass and mud and whatever else. And temperatures in these GT3 cars are critical. They all run in a very narrow temperature window, and if you get it above that, then you need to come in as slowly as possible.
So into the final 2 minutes until the checkered flag will be hung out. So for the drivers who are staying out, they can do this lap and the next one, as long as they hit the finish line, well, pretty much now. For a lot of them, in fact, this will be their final flying lap. So at the moment it's Mercedes at first and second. We had the number 14 Lexus go to the top of the charts. That has been toppled, but it set a couple of quick laps. That's coming into the pits. The 66, is that coming in slowly? Yes, it is. They've decided too much muck in the grille. That's got in the way of the 63 Lamborghini, stopping it from getting into the top 20, as that's had to back off as well.
Audi's staying out, but the Lamborghini's coming in, so...
How fickle.
Well, the load of grass, you could see, just as it came through the camera shot, we're getting the head-on view of the car coming into Copse. And well, I think from what I could see from other angles, a load of grass blocking the air intake, so watch your temperature gauges, because that will very quickly get into a zone which will not be helpful for the engine's reliability.
Yeah, it certainly looks, when we saw it,
well choked up, you can see.
It is choked, big enough, sort of deep enough to plant your petunias in there, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I would have, if I was the team, I'd have been on the radio saying,
yeah, put it in, there's nothing to gain.
Get it in. There is...
Ricky Collard trying to make move. Is that the 98 BMW? Just looking behind the 62 Alex
Brown. That's the 76.
That's the sister car. That's Mathieu Vassivière. That's 8th in the charts.
Still in 8th place, yeah. But these splitters, you can see the Aston splitter, the centre of it is actually higher from the ground than the outside edges, but nonetheless, once they start to grass cutting and mud collecting, they do a pretty impressive job at doing that.
Ricky Collard Jr. pushing very hard indeed. The 98 BMW, 14th place, but middle sector not his very best, but still looking quite competitive at this end sector of pre-qualifying. We had 90 minutes of free practice earlier today, just before lunchtime. Big twitches there, and twitch and off.
Yeah, no, that was all beginning in the first part of the complex. You could see that he got too far over to the
Actually,
left.
that's 99. That's Jens Klingman,
Yeah.
not Ricky Collard, but even so.
Too far over to the left before he could get the car in the position. Checkered flag is now out. So that was the reason why he kicked up the dust, and then the whole sequence of the three corners was out of kilter, and effectively whatever he would have achieved on the first quarter or so of the lap, bin it.
Well, Michael Meadows might be able to move up the chart a bit. In fact, where's he gone? Disappeared. He went from 17th, took the checkered flag in 6th. He set 2 greens, so suddenly he's just half a second or so down on the ultimate pace. So that's another Mercedes up to the front end, and certainly Michael Meadows has been the quickest of the trio in the 35 Mercedes, up to 6th.
76 Aston Martin has got a personal best in the first sector. So we watched that car a moment ago, and looking at 99 as it makes its way around. That's the Klinsmann car in 5th place, not doing anything on this lap other than recording information.
Well, he was the one who had that big twitch last time around.
He certainly did.
No problems at all down the Wellington Straight. He'll just be bringing that back home. Anybody else making a move?
Well, I thought the 76 Aston might make a small improvement. Wait to see what will happen when it comes across. Well, it'll be the checkered flag it will take, as the 99 probably is going to go into the pit lane as we speak. No, he's not. He's staying on the track, so he's continuing along. The Aston Martin still on track, waiting for it to come across and see what the final time is. It's gone up to 6th place, I think. 76 up to 6th place, just ahead of Michael Meadows.
Yep, so it has. So quite a few cars around 4 tenths and 6 tenths off the pace, but there's nearly 3 tenths between the fastest car, the 49 Ram Racing Mercedes, and the second fastest car, which is the 42 Strakka Racing Mercedes. So 2 Mercedes at the top, but the surprise of the session really was the pace of the Lexus early on. So looking forward to the results now. A little late flurry, but really it was the times that were set about 15-20 minutes ago that formed the top of the order. So let's have a look. The Ram Racing Mercedes top overall by just under 3 tenths of a second from Strakka Racing's best, the best of their 3 cars, the 42 entry, and it was Lewis Williamson setting the time. Brilliant time from Christian Kleen. For quite a long time had that 14 Lexus at the top of the chart, and then the Mercedes start to make a move. Marcello, he went up towards the front. He was second, ended up 4th, half a second back, and then the better of the BMWs. The Aston Martins tucked in behind with Nicky Team, Vasivia and Dennis as 6th quickest. Alex Brundle also in the wars, but he was 11th fastest in the sister car. The top runner, the 3rd best runner in Pro-Am, was actually in 13th place overall, which is Daniel Kalvitz. But just worth pointing out, those top 2 cars on the timesheets were Pro-Am entries, 1st and 2nd overall, 1st and 2nd in Pro-Am. We have to look back to the next screen to find the top runner. 3rd screen of the timings to get the top AM runner, which was Philippe Gioc in the number 89 entry from ACA ASP, the Mercedes. So real mixture of cars. Quite a few drivers are going to be in a little bit of trouble for running over the curbing and beyond, and a few team managers are being asked to report to the race director immediately, including the number 72 and 55 crews. The 55 Attempter Racing Audi, the 72 SMP Racing Ferrari, so their trouble's not over yet. But a lot of good running on a circuit that's getting faster and faster. New tarmac over the winter, plenty of rubber put down on it. We're going to be back on track tomorrow in the morning for our super quick qualifying session starting at 9:15. But 50 cars went out to play today, 50 cars have come back. Plenty of highlights to be enjoyed. Brilliant sunny weather here at Silverstone. It feels like summer rather than spring, and we will take that every single time it's offered. So no rain here today, unlikely to have any tomorrow. But here are the highlights of the session. The wave green flag, 50 cars going out to see what they could do. Amazing mix of manufacturers, and they all seem to have a go pretty much at the top end of the field, but it was the Lexus that came to the top, not this one so much as the sister car that started it going. And then we had other challenges. The Mercedes started to come through to the fore. The 88 car, often one of the challengers. The Strakka Racing cars were going faster and faster, particularly the number 42 in the hands of Lewis Williamson. And the fastest car of all for a long time was the 14. The 114 sister car always just around the tail end of the top end. But then came Ewan Hankey in the Pro-Am class. Ram Racing Mercedes went to the top of the charts. The number 8 Bentley had its problems, tried to fight its way back, but ended up down in 16th position. Alex Brundle ended up off the circuit. He destroyed the board on the outside, but the car looks competitive, and that could bear very big fruit tomorrow, Sunday at Silverstone.